First Bank of Seattle. As always, you can join the conversation at 609-403-0973 and your DMs in the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Coming up in less than 20 minutes, around like 6:20 tonight, we'll be joined by Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press. We'll get his perspective on the NFL offseason, as Monday is when what they call legal tampering begins, and then Wednesday is the floodgates open with free agency. So we'll get Rob's perspective on the latest, because while a lot of people in the national news are talking very heavily about Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers, there are a lot of other things to discuss about what is going on with the Eagles, how it relates to the rest of the NFL. Because that's where we're going to start tonight. Because where the Eagles, they are counting down the days to they have to make some difficult decisions, or those difficult decisions may be made for them. And here's why I say that. When you look at the Eagles this offseason, we all know that, as Howie Roseman said, we can't bring everyone back. That's Captain Obvious. The issue is what direction you go in with those decisions. So, for example, when we were talking earlier on the Sports Bash today with Mike Gill in the 2 o'clock hour about the Bijan Robinson, would he be a legitimate option for the Eagles to take in the draft? Well, part of that decision gets made before we get to the draft, because what happens in free agency. And the key to all of this is Jalen Hurts. And there's a huge reason why Jalen Hurts is the key. This morning on Keyshawn, J-Will, and Max here on 97.3 ESPN, Herm Edwards talked about the reason why NFL owners are so hesitant to give Lamar Jackson the guaranteed money. And I want you to listen to what Herm says. What Herm said relates directly to Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. The owners don't want to give out guaranteed contracts, but what the Haslams did with Deshaun Watson is supposed to be the outlier. And so while Lamar is in search of the Holy Grail, the Eagles have a quarterback who is not going to ask for that. And it's such a significant separation, because the guy who got to the Super Bowl is the guy who will not ask for all the money guaranteed, while the guy who couldn't even play in his team's playoff game last year due to a knee injury, which nobody agrees about the severity of, he's the one looking for the guaranteed money. Look, I don't blame Lamar for looking to get every dollar he can. Honestly, he should. These pro athletes are treated in many cases by their teams like commodities. They're another way for them to make money and be successful. So if these athletes have a chance to make big dollars, go for it. I don't begrudge you. But what Herm Edwards said, he explained, he's like, these owners don't want to give out guaranteed money. They don't want to set that precedent. I've known this for 40 years in this league. Well, what's the key there? Herm knows. Herm knows what the deal is. Well, guess who Jalen Hurts' father is? He's a football coach. Who's Patrick Mahomes' dad? Former Major League Baseball player. The people in their lives have given them context. No offense to Lamar Jackson, but it sounds cute and all that you're representing yourself and you and your mom are making decisions together. But at the end of the day, you don't have the people in your life helping you make those decisions. Listen, Just like all of you listening right now on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Thursday night. We all have people in our lives who have impacted the decisions we make. Whether it's your parents, whether it's, your friends, whether it's coaches, it's all of us. All of us have people who influence us for good and for bad. And the reason why Jalen Hurts is going to get his contract done and the Eagles have a franchise quarterback is because he has an agent. He's drafted by an organization that cares about winning. He cares about winning because that's in part his culture, his environment. Lamar Jackson probably feels forced, like he has to get guaranteed money because he's so worried about what his future is like. Jalen Hurts is not worried about that. And this is where Eagle fans need to watch everything that's going on with the Aaron Rodgers fiasco and the Lamar Jackson fiasco and keeping a side eye on how much Joe Burrow is going to get paid and how much Josh Allen's going to get paid and realize Eagle fans might be the luckiest fans on earth. Aside from Chief fans, Eagle fans might be the most fortunate because your quarterback is not jeopardizing your franchise's present or future. He will get paid, and he'll get paid by a guy running the salary cap who knows what he's doing. It's a two-win. It's a twofold win-win. Howie Roseman knows what he's doing. Some people might not like how he sounds, how he walks, how he talks, how he looks when he doesn't shave for a week. But at the end of the day, Howie, if he's not the best, he's one of the best when it comes to manipulating and working the salary cap in this league. And if anyone's going to get the quarterback deal done, it's Howie. Lamar Jackson's real gripe should be the fact that he's not the Eagles quarterback, because if he was, I guarantee you Howie Roseman would have found the way to manipulate that money just like the Chiefs did. Don't forget, Patrick Mahomes' contract is literally predicated on him being on the roster every year. You break down that contract and you realize that this dude literally tied him being on the roster to his salary each year. And that's how they work the numbers around. Well, guess what? The Chiefs and the Eagles don't need quarterbacks. That's probably a huge reason why Lamar is in the situation that he is in. Because his organization doesn't know what to do. Now, what will the Eagles do this offseason? One, they'll sign Jalen Hurts. Obvious. Number two, they got to make a decision about three positions. And their decisions about those three positions will impact what they do in next month's NFL draft. The first position they got to make a decision about is safety. And this is my priority list, safety. You got to make a decision whether trading for C.J. Gardner-Johnson was trading for a guy who is going to be your long-term solution at safety, or is he going to be just a short-term Band-Aid and you'll find somebody else in the offseason, like let's say Jordan Poyer of the Bills, who I saw Micah Hyde this morning on Good Morning Football begging Jordan Poyer to stay in Buffalo. Shows you how confident he is that his guy is going to stay there. Then you flip it over to the D-line. Not one, not two, but three valuable players from this past season are free agents. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave. You're not keeping all three. And realistically, which of those three that you keep is going to determine what you do in the draft. There's a lot of talent on the D-line in this NFL draft in the first round. Not as much talent at safety in the first round. Now, as you've heard Andrew DeCecco talk about on Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill in the 4 o'clock hour, safety has depth in the draft, but not first-round talent depth. It's a little bit of a difference. The third position you got to make a decision about is running back. Right now, the only guy guaranteed to be back is Kenny Gainwell and only Trey Sermon because he's under contract. Not because you have any specific expectations for Trey Sermon. Will Miles Sanders sign a contract that is team friendly, or will some team give him big money in free agency? Boston Scott, there's no guarantee he's back. And those three positions are going to impact what the Eagles do in the draft, because Todd McShay thinks the Eagles should draft Bijan Robinson with their first-round pick. Well, here's the thing with Bijan Robinson. You're not drafting Robinson if Miles Sanders comes back. Very unlikely. If Edwards isn't back, if Miles Sanders isn't back and Boston Scott doesn't come back, and you go out and sign, let's say, a Madison for the Vikings in free agency to a short-term deal, Robinson looks like a play. Of course, a couple other running backs do too. But Monday, it all starts. We'll talk more about it with Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press coming up next here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. Don't forget, tonight starting at 7 o'clock, more ACC men's basketball tournament action right here on 97.3 ESPN FM.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
He drives it by 1 man to the near side. House, open three, corner by Daniel House. Oh, yeah. Sixers get the bucket.
The Sixers host the Blazers tomorrow. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
Mega Millions is now $203 million. With a win like that, you could take the whole family on your dream vacation or leave the kids behind with the in-laws. We won't judge. After all, anything can happen in Jersey.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2023 Bank of America, N.A.
Hi, this is Brighton Richards from Apex East Roofing. Is your roof old? Do you have a leak and are wondering what your next steps are? Let us help you. Go to apexeastroofing.com and watch us explain all the parts that make up a roofing system. Then if you'd like us to come out, we can be there within 24 hours to give you a free roofing inspection and usually get a new roof installed within 1 to 3 business days.
Get a price on your roof in 30 seconds at apexeastroofing.com.
You're invited to enjoy 50% off your purchase during the semi-annual Friends and Family event only at Banana Republic Factory. Shop this week only for limited time prices at your nearest Banana Republic Factory store or online.
Get ready, because Scott's is taking over daylight saving time. It's such a big event that we're calling it day-long saving time. And now it's got real savings. In fact, it's the biggest deals of the year. Audacious? Absolutely. So don't wait. Stock up early and you'll be able to save up to $20 on Scott's Triple Action and Easy Seed products today at the Home Depot and Lowe's. Offers available March 9th through 22nd at select U.S. stores while supplies last. Selection varies by location. See store for exact offers.
First impressions are lasting impressions, and these days that's more important than ever. Before your potential customer ever sets foot inside your business, calls, or places an item in their online shopping cart, they've checked you out online, because that's where commerce happens these days, even if there's a brick and mortar end to it. So when they looked you up, what did they see? Is your website compelling? Does it appear first when someone searches for your product? And does your website make the sort of impression that makes a customer want to engage with your business? Town Square South Jersey is ready to help your business grow. We have the online tools you need, from web design to making sure you show up in online searches. Town Square South Jersey even has the metrics to show how and when people are accessing your website, so you can maximize those first impressions. For a free local customer analysis where you can see how many local customers in South Jersey are looking for businesses like yours, go to townsquarelocal.com. Make your website work for you. Get started at townsquarelocal.com.
Attorney Joe Cordell.
Divorce forces a father to focus on what's most important, his children. In the divorce process, this comes down to three key concerns: physical custody, decision-making, as well as financial support. Each of these is important, and it's important that you choose a lawyer that cares as much about these issues as you do.
Online at CordellCordell.com. Offices in Philadelphia, Radnor, and Allentown, Pennsylvania, and Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Michelle Ferrari, licensed in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Joseph Cordell, licensed in Missouri and Illinois only.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Haley, quote, "Navage is the best thing I bought. I love it. My nose feels so clear now and I can breathe. I've been struggling with a stuffy nose for weeks. I bought Navage and it's amazing." Or this one, "I use Navage every night, could not imagine life without it. I have 5 cats, and before I found Navage, I was a clogged mess. Now I breathe so much better," unquote. Those are two of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Save thousands at Matt Blatt Kia. Get out of your old trade today, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Go to mattblattkianj.com for more details. That's mattblattkianj.com.
It's gotta be
Map. Yeah.
You're listening to Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night being brought to you by my friends over at Jenkins and Sons. One call does it all. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumbing guy, because Jenkins technicians have got you covered. From new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, gas furnaces, leak repairs, and more. Just call Jenkins at 609-641-6440 or visit them online at jenkinsandsons.com. As we mentioned at the top of the show, the countdown is on to the official start of the NFL offseason. And to get into the latest that is going on around the league, we welcome back Rob Maaddi, lead NFL writer for the Associated Press. He is back joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, he is also the host of the AP Pro Football Podcast and co-host of Faith on the Field, heard Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. here on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, welcome back. How you doing today, my friend?
What's going on, Josh? How are you, man? I hope you're getting paid like quarterbacks in the NFL are.
I am not, but maybe one day I will if I work hard enough, right? But let's get into those quarterbacks, because I was saying before you came on, I think part of the problem for Lamar Jackson is that his situation is not like a lot of other guys. You know, Jalen Hurts is in a very stable situation. So is Joe Burrow, right? You know, these guys, they are in very normal, winning, stable situations. And the Ravens used to be one of those stable situations. I don't know if the Ravens are ever going to have more of this offseason. Changes on the roster or changes in the coaching staff.
Yeah, and I think first off, Josh, with Lamar Jackson, it's been said by a lot of people often, and we beat up on the fact that he doesn't have an agent. But I think it starts there. The fact that he doesn't have an agent is, to me, probably the main reason why he doesn't have a deal in play. He didn't have a deal in place last year. I think someone would have been able to negotiate that on his behalf, take the emotional aspect out of it. No player believes he's worth less than what someone else he feels he's better than, right? Or he's accomplished more than. So I think Lamar looks at all of this stuff, and from an emotional standpoint, he wants what he wants, and he wants to get it now, and he thinks he deserves it. Whereas a guy who would be negotiating on his behalf could make something happen, could make him understand, could bridge that gap, could be talking to these teams behind the scenes. I know the legal tampering period doesn't technically begin until Monday at noon. But Josh, at the combine, all these agents are talking to all these teams illegally tampering, right? And they would have been able to figure something out ahead of time with Lamar so he can be prepared for this moment. And you start there. No agent wants a fully guaranteed contract, sees that Deshaun Watson got that, knows that he's accomplished more than Deshaun Watson, and he feels that he should get it. Now, I think an agent would be able to explain to him that is more and more like an outlier because Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, now Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Derek Carr have all signed deals since that Deshaun Watson. None of them got a fully guaranteed deal. I don't think anybody's going to do that. So if Lamar's holding on to that, it's not going to happen. Then you look at what's going on in Baltimore. There's some change, as you mentioned, and he's been hurt. He's missed about a third of his games over the past 2 years, and that's going to scare teams off. And that's going to make the Ravens a little bit reluctant to give him the 5 years, $250 million guaranteed. That seems like a number he would want to reach for. So he's not technically a free agent. He's got the franchise tag on him. The Ravens can match anything. And as we enter free agency next week, that to me is the biggest name. Most eyes are going to be like, where's Lamar going? Who's interested? Who's going to bring him in? Our team's going to be willing to negotiate on behalf of the Ravens, who can only then just match whatever the hard work they put together to get a deal done. So it's wild that it even got to this point.
Is there a lesson to be learned for the rest of the league with this Lamar Jackson situation?
Man, that's a great question. I think the lesson for players has got to be, hey, you're here to do a job, and your skill set is to be out on that field performing. There are agents in place who can get these things done for you, who can understand all the nuances. It's not easy to represent yourself, and I know other players have done it, and I know people want to poo-poo that and say, well, hey, it can be done. Yeah, it can be done. But then when you get to something like this, I think every player is going to think twice about if they were considering going down the route of Lamar Jackson. Hey, I'll just rep myself. Think about it long and hard. And from a team standpoint, I don't know that the Baltimore Ravens are in a bad spot. I've always been in favor, if I'm a team, of franchising someone because you can match. The only issue you get to is if they decide, hey, I'm not going to sign that tender, I'm just going to sit out. And then you got a disgruntled player who's not sitting yet, but he's not getting paid. So that's going to be a difficult scenario. I think you let a guy go out there and look. Kirk Cousins played on the franchise tag 2 years in a row. So there have been guys who've done it, who had to go out there and prove themselves and then get the money and then prove themselves, get the money, and then finally get that long-term deal. So I think the Ravens are in a pretty decent spot. There was some thought about, do they give him the exclusive or the non-exclusive? I was always all along, though, and it's definitely going to be non-exclusive because, one, it's less money and the ability to match. You let another team give him an offer. Now, there's a scenario where some team can come in there and want to screw with the Ravens and create this crazy deal. Like, okay, let's fully guarantee $250 million. Well, then the Ravens will throw their hands up and say, he's yours. We'll take the 2 first-round picks. So I think they're in a pretty good spot.
Speaking of teams and the franchise tag, the Eagles are a team that doesn't use the franchise tag. What does it say to you that this is another offseason? The Eagles, they're not tagging a CJ Garner-Johnson or a Javon Hargrave or any of these guys. They're going into the offseason fully, as Howie Roseman, prepared for the idea that they can't keep anyone, to use his words.
Yeah, and I thought maybe CJ or Javon Hargrave on a 1-year franchise would work, right? Javon Hargrave, especially because he's 30. They chose not to do it. I can understand both sides of that. I'm not going to sit here at this point after what Howie Roseman was able to accomplish last year and say, all right, Howie, believe in what you're able or capable of doing. Let's go out there. Free agency hasn't started. It's early in the process. They're going to lose some guys. They got a ton of free agents. They're going to lose some guys, and their big priority is going to be getting Jalen Hurts under contract. And I think until they know the parameters of that deal, it's going to be hard for them to really fill out that roster around him. Now, they're going to have to. They're going to have to start. They're going to have to attack free agency, and meanwhile, simultaneously be working on what they can do. I think they have a framework. I think they have an idea of what they can do for Jalen and where they're willing to go with a long-term deal. And I'm sure they want to get it done. I'm sure he wants to get it done. His people want to get it done. And that framework will allow them to be able to say, all right, we can allot this much at this position, that much at that. You know the positions they value, right? It's the trenches. And they're gonna try and one way or another shore up both sides. They're gonna lose Isaac Seumalo. I don't know if Fletcher Cox can be back. I think Brandon Graham can be back on something of a hometown discount. I think he wants to come back, and maybe he's a nice rotational piece. They got some restructures that they got to do. Lane Johnson, big play, Darius Slay, right? He's a potential restructure to save them money on the cap this season. So this may be one of the toughest off-season jobs that Howie Roseman has in being able to take a Super Bowl contender, a team that was right there on the cusp of winning it all, and figuring out how to move forward, because now his second-round pick, star quarterback, is going to get paid.
Talking with Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press, lead NFL writer, here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Follow Rob on Twitter at Rob Maaddi. Rob, who do the Eagles need to prioritize of their free agents? Because we already know that Jalen Hurts is getting his contract. That's no questions. That's going to happen. But is it C.J. Gardner-Johnson because of their history at drafting safeties? Is it Javon Hargrave so they can prioritize maybe the draft in another way? Do they focus heavily on T.J. Edwards because they know that the linebacker position is a position they've not always gotten right? What do they need to focus on the most?
I think from within their own free agents, those two names right off the top, C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Javon Hargrave, are pretty important pieces. They're guys who play positions that are extremely valuable for the Eagles, and they need to find a way to make that happen and to make it work. But there's got to be numbers too in place for both, where they're willing to say, all right, this is our walk away point. If C.J. Gardner-Johnson is going to get X, let's throw a number out there, 14.5, 15 million. And that's something that they feel that, all right, this is the breaking point. We can't go there. I think they're still in a position, Josh, where they've got some young guys, although not in his spot, but they've got some young guys on the defensive side from last year that they can plug into starting spots. Nakobe Dean at linebacker, whether they lose Kaiser White, TJ Edwards, or both. Jordan Davis up front, whether they lose Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, or both. And then you got picks 10 and picks 30 in the first round. And you may not have the luxury this year of drafting guys in the first round who have to sit and get to sit and wait and watch and learn. They may have to be plugged right in. You lose Isaac Seumalo, Cam Jurgens can step in on the opposite side. Unless Jason Kelsey decides to retire, then he's going to be the center. Otherwise, Cam could be can play left guard instead of Isaac Seumalo. So you're going to have to count on younger guys to step into the lineup this year. You're going to have to be able to draft replacements, because you're not going to have a QB playing at a extremely low, below $2 million salary. He's going to be taking up a chunk of your salary cap. And now is the time where you're going to have to count on draft picks and hitting on those. That's why I think when it comes to the draft too, and this could be a conversation at a later time, but 10 and 30, I can't see any way where they stay put. I think you move back, you accumulate more picks, and you see what you could do there.
Another position they got to make a decision about is running back. So we know, we've talked about earlier today on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill, Rob, about how Todd McShay thinks the Eagles should draft Bijan Robinson in the first round, the running back from Texas. So I ask you, Rob, what makes more sense? Keep Miles Sanders, go get another guy in free agency, or draft a running back for the Eagles?
Of those choices, to me, it's go get another guy in free agency. I'm not paying Miles Sanders what he's going to have to, what he's worth. And I'm not drafting a Bijan Robinson in the first round. I'm not spending a first round pick on a running back. Teams have proven time and again in the NFL, you can win with second day, third day running backs, even undrafted free agent running backs. The value is just not there. We saw 3 running backs, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and Tony Pollard, get franchise tagged. That means Miles Sanders is going to be the best available running back out there. And there's probably going to be a team that feels like, hey, we can fit him in and make it a top-heavy contract for guaranteed over the first couple of years before he may be no longer at that same level. And they're going to lose Miles Sanders. That's fine. That's why you have Kenny Gainwell. Boston Scott's still a piece that works. And you go out there and you find somebody in free agency. I'm not spending a day 1 or 2 pick on a running back. I'm looking for a running back day 3 or a veteran in free agency.
Let's get to some other non-Eagles questions. Let's start with those running backs. You just mentioned the franchise tag. Which franchise tag hurts the team's offseason more? The Giants with Saquon or Pollard with the Cowboys?
I think the Giants were able to put themselves in a position with Daniel Jones, and as crazy as that contract is, like, to me, I think anybody who looks at the NFL to see that Daniel Jones is now a $40 million a year quarterback goes, what the heck is going on? But that's what the Giants valued him as. Essentially, what's a 2-year deal, $82 million guaranteed over the first 2 or somewhere thereabouts. For a game manager. Basically, that's what Daniel Jones is. But now that they have that taken care of and they know what's allotted to Saquon Barkley, I think they're gonna prioritize going out there and bringing in some wide receiver help. I look at the Cowboys, and that's for a team that needed they had some holes, and they got some areas where they have to fill. And to commit that kind of money to a running back like Tony Pollard surprises me. And I think that the Cowboys, to answer your question, which of the 2 hurts more doing that, I think it's the Cowboys more so than the Giants. If I'm Dallas, I don't put that much money into a running back. You had a lot of money into Zeke Elliott and didn't win anything. Now you're going to do that with Tony Pollard. Why? Like I said with the Eagles, I think there's scenarios and solutions and ways to bring in running backs and have success where the guys aren't getting paid top dollar. And that's just a position that's now become one of those where players aren't getting a ridiculous amount of money. All that money's going to the quarterback, even Daniel Jones. And that's just the way of life now in the NFL.
Removing Aaron Rodgers and his circus from the conversation, what is your perspective on the quarterbacks? Because we know every year quarterbacks move. And of course, you have the draft coming up. There's some high profile guys there. We know guys like Minshew and Jacoby Brissett are out there. Jimmy G is out there. Lamar, we know you mentioned earlier, he could be matched with the non-exclusive tag. What is your perspective on the quarterback landscape this offseason?
Yeah, it's not quite as the names aren't as impressive as the guys who were on the move last year. But assuming something gets done with, at this point, you're going to have Lamar or Aaron Rodgers, but even if they stay put, they're in the news. Derek Carr already made his decision. He's with the New Orleans Saints. Geno Smith is staying put. So that's 2 guys that are off the table. Daniel Jones, another off the table. But as you mentioned, Jimmy Garoppolo to me is the one who is probably the best of the bunch. He's a winner. I know he's got some injury history. He's got some injury issues, but he's a guy who's proven it. He finds ways to get it done and to win. I don't know what's the best fit for him. There are a lot of teams that, whether it's Washington, they need a quarterback. Tampa Bay needs a quarterback. Carolina, Atlanta, there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback. The Raiders, of course, and he's got history with Josh McDaniels. Jimmy G should be the most highly sought after quarterback of the truly free guys out there, other than Lamar Jackson, because he could be matched. Baker Mayfield's a name who he showed in a couple games with Sean McVay that, hey, if you put him in the right system with the right coach, that he can get some things done. He's a guy who I think is going to get some attention. He may get another opportunity to play somewhere. Jacoby Brissett is just a valuable backup at this point. Teddy Bridgewater, another guy who's a valuable backup, who's available. Taylor Heineke is a guy who I think he's going to be on the move. He's another valuable backup. Gardner Minshew, another guy. All of them can get opportunities as bridge quarterbacks for some of these teams. The Colts need a quarterback. Now, they may draft, obviously, at number 4. They should get their quarterback of the future. But all of them look like they should get an opportunity somewhere. And then the guy that nobody wants to mention, Carson Wentz. And the entire NFL wrote him off now. People are so thrilled and excited that he's failed in another stop, and now the most hated quarterback in the NFL for some weird reason that I'm probably not going to get into on this conversation with you, Josh, but you and I can talk about later via text message. He's out there and he's available, and I don't think he's done yet. He's a year removed from 27-7 in Indianapolis. His first game last year at Washington against Jacksonville, he threw 4 touchdown passes, 300 yards. Yeah, he's had some problems. He's had some issues. He's not who he used to be. But when you look at all these quarterbacks out there, I also don't think he's garbage.
Although there's a part of me that actually would like to see Carson Wentz go to the CFL and win a couple Grey Cups just because. But I don't know. There's something about a guy like Wentz, like a 30 for 30 years from now. Like, what if I told you at the number 2 overall pick in the NFL, won a Super Bowl and a Grey Cup, but he only played in one of the games? Like, I could make the Carson Wentz story. But before I let you go, a guy who knows Carson Wentz is Frank Reich. And I want to ask you about Frank, because I was talking to Mike Gill earlier about the fact that Frank seems to have a type of player that he likes. Like a personality type, basically. He loved Phillip Rivers. He wanted him to bring in Carson Wentz. He got us along very well from reports with Andrew Luck. How much do you think Frank Reich's personal preference on the type of man he wants to play quarterback is going to impact who the Panthers quarterback is next season?
Well, if you bring a head coach, you should give him a lot of say, Josh. And I think you're right. There are kind of guys that Frank Reich likes, but also I think he's a very likable coach, and he's adaptable, and he also can work with anyone. I think he can make a quarterback a better all-around player, all-around person, just by who he is, Frank Reich, as a person. So I think there's a certain fit that he's gonna want, he's gonna look for, and it would not surprise me if at some point there is a Carson and Frank Reich reunion. But they got Sam Darnold, and they got an opportunity to probably bring in a quarterback of the future in the first round, and that might be somebody that they don't want to have a veteran like Carson in the fold. Maybe that's where you bring in somebody, you keep Sam Darnold, you go, all right, he'll be the bridge for whoever it is that they draft in the first round. I think the Panthers, they made the right choice in Frank Reich, because I think he can be a winner, and I think he could be a winner quickly with that team in that division.
And don't forget, he's got Deuce Staley on that staff too. And we know how players, they like Deuce. They play hard for Deuce. So wouldn't be surprised how that impacts things as well. Also throw out there my personal opinion. I think if Will Levis is drafted by Frank Reich, they're going to be very successful together. But that's just my little side note on that. He is Rob Maaddi, at Rob Maaddi on Twitter. Check out the AP Pro Football Podcast. And of course, Faith on the Field, Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. The Encore, Sunday mornings right here on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, always appreciate you jumping on. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it, buddy. Take care.
Of course, our conversation with Rob Maaddi being brought to you by Jenkins & Sons. Just give them a call at 609-641-6440. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, and the plumbing guy. Just call 609-641-6440 or online at jenkinsandsons.com. All right, I got messages from James on the DMs. Also, I believe we got Jeff in Ocean City as well chiming in on the text board at 609-403-0973. All your messages as we wrap up the hour. Coming up next, don't forget the ACC tournament tonight on 97.3 ESPN.
Sign up now for this year's $1 Million Bracket Challenge. Registration is underway now at 973ESPN.com and the free mobile app until the tournament begins.
Hell yeah!
Brought to you by
Progressive Fence and Railing, serving South Jersey for over 20 years. Call them at 609-800-8428.
Register for the $1 Million Bracket.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. Thinking about gas mileage? If your check engine light is on, it may be affecting your MPGs, but the free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help. With the most complete free warning light report backed by technician-verified fixes, you'll know what's affecting your gas mileage and more, and you don't have to drive too far to find the fix. The free AutoZone Fix Finder service is available at all 6,200 stores.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
See details at AutoZone.com.
Attention car buyers. Matt Blatt Kia has 3 questions. Do you have a current vehicle loan or lease? Yes. Do you want a low financing rate? Yes. Do you want a new ride? Yes. If you've answered yes, then stop what you're doing and get to Matt Blatt Kia today. Because if you're currently stuck in a loan or lease, Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you released with 0 down and 2.9% financing for 48 months or no payments for 90 days on every 2023 Kia Forte in stock. Have a job clearing $350 per week? Matt Blatt Kia wants to approve you today. So bring any trade to Matt Blatt Kia and drive home in a brand new Kia with peace of mind with Matt Blatt Kia's exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
With approved credit, not all will qualify. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer except for licensing, registration, and taxes. Expires 3/31/23. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Tara, quote, "My doctor wanted me to do saline rinses for my allergies, but I've never been able to successfully use a neti pot. Navage uses suction power, so it's foolproof. There are nights when I'll have particularly bothersome allergies. I'll bust it out, and the results are immediate. It's such a relief. It's become a lifesaver," unquote. She's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
A good work partner knows what you need before you need it. That's how it feels when you work with Cintas. Your dedicated Cintas service reps get to know your business and have the industry knowledge that can help you prepare for what's ahead. They'll deliver your team's workwear freshly laundered. Make sure your first aid and safety supplies, mats, mops, and towels are stocked when you need them. And your fire extinguishers are inspected and in working order. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
The Dell Technologies semi-annual sale is on with limited quantity deals on top tech. Save on select PCs powered by the latest 12th gen Intel Core processors like thin and light XPS 13 laptops, Inspiron laptops, and 2-in-1s. Plus, get savings on select accessories, free shipping, and monthly payment options with Dell Preferred Account. Save today by calling 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
At the Home Depot, we know the world is a messy place. Keeping it clean takes science. That's why businesses everywhere have long trusted cleaning products from Ecolab to take on the toughest messes. And now, that level of clean is available for your home. Introducing Ecolab Scientific Clean, a full line of professional grade cleaning products for all your home's needs, so you can clean like you mean business. Now available exclusively at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
With GM financing to qualified buyers excludes Corvette.
It's back! That's right! March Markdown is back at Bennett Chevrolet. And this year, the savings are bigger and better than ever, with huge savings on every vehicle, because we need to move out over 200 of them right now. Believe it or not, Bennett Chevrolet is selling new vehicles at GM supplier employee pricing for everybody. Plus, there's available 0% financing. And Bennett is giving a minimum $10,000 for the worst clunker towards any pre-owned vehicle in stock. That's at least 10 grand for total junk. Just imagine how much Bennett is paying for good trades. And Bennett's non-commissioned sales team is a delight to work with, because they're paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Don't miss March Markdowns going on now at Bennett Chevrolet, and get your new Chevy at GM supplier employee pricing, 0% available financing, and at least 10 grand for any trade towards any pre-owned in stock. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. Free laugh.
Get your messages on the text board 609-403-0973. Your DMs in the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. See how we do tonight here on Game Night. We'd like to wrap up the hour with what you guys have to say listening to the show. Thank you for listening each night. Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of now. In the DMs, James chimes in. I'm not giving away his last name, but James chimes in and says, "Hey Josh, do you think the Eagles will get Jalen Carter if he drops the 10th overall? Your thoughts?" Well, James, I appreciate the question. To me, the Jalen Carter thing comes down to if he doesn't have a undraftable designation. Don't forget, sometimes teams, because of character issues or health issues, will put designations on players. Whether it's fair or not, those players are typically left in the dark when it comes to where their future is. I think that for a guy like Jalen Carter, if he is available at 10th overall, you got to get him. He is a must-have when it comes to a position that the Eagles realistically need. Okay, the Eagles are not going to be able to sign both Fletcher and Javon, their two starting D tackles. Cox and Hargrave are both going to probably, there's a chance they're both gone. So a guy like Carter very much fills a void in between him, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, and probably signing a veteran, maybe like a Jaron Reed or maybe bring back Limbo Joseph, for example. You know, a guy like that to be part of your rotation. Now, we're not putting too much pressure just on Davis and Carter. I do think that, listen, you go through the mock drafts right now, and you see that there's going to be at least 3 quarterbacks picked in the top 10. And if there's 3 quarterbacks picked in the top 10, that means everyone is getting pushed down. And not every team in that top 10 is going to want a D tackle. Some of those teams need cornerbacks. Some of those teams need offensive line help. I think that Carter, if he does drop, I think the Eagles should pick him, because my personal opinion is, without any further information, I'm a big believer that with culture breeds better humans. And I think the Eagles have a strong enough culture and locker room to take a young man like Jalen Carter, especially if you re-sign a guy like Brandon Graham. A guy like Brandon Graham, a guy like, Jason Kelsey, those kind of veterans in a locker room can really take a young man like Jalen Carter and help him refocus on what's important. Over on the text board at 609-403-0973. Says, random question. What percentage chance would you give the Eagles to win the NFC East as of today? What percentage chance as of March 9th? I don't know, 60%? Here's the problem with that question. In today's NFL, you don't need to win the division to win a championship. There's a possibility that this team doesn't get out to a great start because of all the coaches they lost and because of the roster turnover they're going to have. Their defense is not going to be as good as it was last year just because of the loss of talent. So there's a chance that you might not win enough games early on to win the division. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the Cowboys are going to win the division or the Giants are going to win the division because of that. I'm just saying that I need to have more information before I start projecting who's going to win the division. That's all. Also on the text board at 609-403-0973. Mike in Marmora chimes in. Hello, Mike in Marmora. He says, Josh, what is it that Rob Maaddi didn't want to say regarding Wentz? That he's ostracized because of his face? I'm just curious. Zero judgment on the matter personally, says Mike in Marmora. I just recall Phillip Rivers and many others being very faith-driven guys, and they had zero issues that Wentz had. It's from Mike in Marmora. Mike, I don't want to speak for Rob, but I will say there's two things with the Wentz situation that I think is problematic. One, there's a lot of people who feel like, who are, Wentz, people who cover the league feel that the criticisms of Wentz have been by a lot of people who have done it anonymously and haven't done it on the record. So there's a perception that a lot of the negativity with Carson comes from people who are not willing to speak on the record because they'll either be called out or they'll be harshly judged for how they feel about Carson. Look, I feel Carson has two problems going against him. Number one, I don't know if Carson personally, as a human being, has evolved enough as a man to realize the things that he has said and done, how it's been perceived, the perception becomes reality. I don't think Wentz's faith is the issue. I think it was his maturity about his faith was an issue. You mentioned it. There's a lot of guys in the NFL who have never been looked at sideways because of their Christian faith. Wentz seems to be a person who his faith was maybe used against him a little more than it should have because there were other issues people couldn't put their finger on.
Westwood One presents great moments in tournament history.
Wooden walks out a winner. The 10th title for the Wizard of Westwood.
All right, I wanted to get to the Wentz thing a little more here because it's a complicated issue, and I didn't want to just cut it short. I haven't done a post game here on Game Night for a little while. I'll take a couple minutes to get in this. Here's the deal with Wentz, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time dwelling on this. It's Rob Maaddi says, it's a conversation that can be had more at another time. Carson Wentz came from an environment where he was sheltered. He didn't get to meet and experience life with a lot of the people. Because of his sheltered upbringing and because of his, I will call it, stubbornness when it came to his own professional and personal development, that stubbornness put him in a position where he was unable to grow. He stunted his own growth and development, and as a result, it was perceived that he was a bad guy. Nobody thinks Wentz is a bad guy. Everyone who's been around him, worked with him, knows that he is a good quality human being. But I think the problem is that because he already went to Indianapolis with a bit of a scarlet letter on his chest, and then the COVID stuff happened, and then the Colts got away from the game plan that got them to be a winning team that season, and in the final game, they asked Wentz to do too much, and as a result, by the end of the season, he was ostracized. I think Jim Irsay, he made Wentz look worse. I think Irsay, the owner of the Colts, did irreparable damage to Wentz's reputation. Wentz never recovered from that irreparable damage. And as a result, you now have a situation where moving forward, Wentz will never be the same in terms of how people perceive him, how people treat him. And Ron Rivera could only do so much in an environment where the Washington Commanders are a dumpster fire organization, and you brought in a guy who needs serious image rehabilitation in there to be fixed. That's a lose-lose situation for everybody. Like I said, I think Wentz should go to the Canadian Football League. I know it was a little tongue-in-cheek, but you know what? If Wentz really loves football, if he really cares about trying to show that he could be a winning player, go to the CFL, win a Grey Cup at the Canadian Football League. We have seen players go to the CFL and come back to the NFL with success. Warren Moon did it. Doug Flutie did it. Kurt Warner did it with the NFL Europe. If you believe you're that good and you believe in yourself and you believe in your abilities, go prove yourself. You know, if something happens to somebody in another area of life, right? The idea that somebody, you know, they have to rehabilitate their image. You will go to a lesser opportunity to prove you can get back to a better opportunity. A lot of people do it in a lot of areas of life, but hopefully Wentz can humble himself enough to do that, to rebuild back his reputation. If you're watching this, you're watching on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. Like, subscribe, download, share it with everybody. Have a great night, everybody. I'll be back on tomorrow around 6 o'clock on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, and live right here on my YouTube channel. Take care.